Hi friends, welcome to the Anime Book Club podcast. I'm your host, DJ Montague.
And I'm your host, Greg. And here we review anime from classics to brand new stuff, hidden gems, and controversial favorites.
You'll hear all of our hot takes, rants,
and genius observations. So thanks for tuning in, and buckle up because the episode starts now.
By the way, friends, these episodes contain spoilers, so be careful and don't ruin this anime for yourself. You've been warned. That got really high. That was like the full spectrum of the do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do.
I should have been a singer. But instead, we are the Anime Book Club podcast. My name is Greg, Green Squadron member, Tanukian, Big Smart Jesus, and I am joined by the Hopna creator himself, Dr. DJ Montague Skinner. This is where you say your name, even though I just said it.
Hi, I'm Dr. DJ Montague Skinner, also known as Axel, also known as Douglas Chris Leland the Third.
And Hirsch.
I forgot Hirsch. Oh, I forgot Elena as well. Damn it.
And today we are going to discuss Apocalypse Hotel and Shirley, Go-Go Loser Ranger, and Lazarus. Episode 3 of all of those animes. And we welcome everyone to the show.
Hi, everybody. Greg, first and foremost, Mr. Extracurricular himself. How's the Old Man Samurai show you're watching?
Oh, Old Man Swordsman. I love it. I think Old Man Swordsman is great.
Okay.
I think it's a lot of what I like. It's like harem, not harem, because he's like an old guy and his students want to be his harem, but he's not letting them because he's a good old guy that knows boundaries. I personally really like Old Country Bumpkin a lot. Now, I did read some anime forum posts about how people are annoyed at the harem-esque nature of the show, but I think it's cute.
Greg, you like harems, though.
Yeah. And the fact that he isn't taking advantage of harem possibilities, I think makes the show more wholesome.
Okay.
He's just worried about the growth of his students because he hasn't seen them in so long.
Yeah, of course. And the growth that the people on the internet are worried about is in the physical sense and not the emotional. So, real quick, I noticed something. We talk a lot about different anime. We have some that are very mainstream, but we have a lot of stuff that's a little offbeat. And I enjoy that. I noticed that a lot of anime watchers in general have a very specific show type and they watch everything in that genre.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with that, but I feel it's like when you're talking about, it's like house music or somebody that walks up to you and is like, this is techno. There's so much under the umbrella of like what house music is or what EDM is. There's hundreds of different genres. And that is what I feel like anime is as well. And you can like a particular genre and only like that genre. But as a random anime viewer, people will be like, oh, you like anime? You must like Naruto. And that's like, oh, you like house music? You must like Avicii and John Summit. That's the exact same thing. R.I.P. Avicii, the homie.
I think it's good to give other genres and other style shows or media a chance.
Yeah.
You can still specialize in your insert whatever you really, really like here. But I think it's good to get a little bit of contrast on why you like that genre so much by viewing other genres and seeing what they have to offer.
The other part of my thought was a lot of the bigger people in the anime podcasting and content creation space. I get random stuff on my YouTube shorts and I'll see Weeb Commander doing like a Family Feud style show. Family Feud is lowest common denominator. What does the general populace say? One of them was like, who talks the most shit in anime? And they were talking about Kaiba. And I'm like, dude, I wouldn't have gotten anybody because I'm watching different anime now. I haven't been watching Yu Yu Hakusho. I haven't been watching Naruto. I haven't been watching Yu-Gi-Oh! And so I feel like I'm almost lost sometimes because I don't watch the main show. Like we watch Bleach, obviously. But like One Piece, I didn't watch. And I feel like I just lost so much in the comparison in the anime greater sphere.
And that's like the one thing I don't like about those Family Feud-esque discussions. It makes you feel like you're not an anime viewer if you don't know what those mainstream anime characters are or that story. And even if you don't want to watch it, you feel like you have to watch it because that's what everyone else knows. But there's a ton of anime out there, and there's a ton of shows out there that have really good stories, really good characters. And even though they may be obscure, it doesn't make them any less impactful. And I think a lot of people have limited viewing time as well. So a lot of people gravitate to what are like the large mainstream animes. So if I see some sort of pop culture reference or I hear someone talking about it, we'll be on the same page.
Right.
I made the comparison to books before. Like there were thousands of authors and books and genres and all sorts of stuff. I think you can get lost in trying to keep up with the Joneses in terms of media, like what have you watched, what haven't you watched, trying to be on the cutting edge when I think sometimes it's okay to slow down and check out the restaurants and the shops on the path less traveled, because sometimes you'll find some gems there.
Yeah, and I agree with you. This is the same for all media. Because of the limited time we have on this earth to do things that we enjoy, you generally gravitate towards the things that are widely considered safe, because you don't want to go venture off, find out that you wasted 2 hours of your life watching Go-Go Loser Ranger or something like that. But that is, you know, like Go-Go Loser Ranger compared to One Piece is like watching a documentary about Mozart versus like someone farting next to an easel and being like, this is art. People will watch One Piece or get invested in something that's tried and true, Naruto, Bleach, versus going the path less traveled.
I hope the podcast helps some people. And that's kind of the goal here is we are the ones doing the legwork in terms of taking that path less traveled.
Yeah.
And letting you guys know what our findings are and see if it's worth it for you to invest the time into a series. Because I know that the average anime nowadays is 12 episodes for the season.
Yeah.
If you want to make math easy and then you take 30 minutes per episode, it's like 4.5 hours of your life that you have to invest in to finish a season. We do the legwork so you can see if your 4.5 hours of your life is worth the view.
We waste time near the farting easel so that you don't have to smell the farting easel.
I actually am the easel and I'm getting farted on.
I hope not, Greg. This has gone down a path less traveled and hopefully never traveled again.
But yeah, the extracurricular stuff is good.
Good.
Country Bumpkin's good. Catch Me in the Ballpark. Those are actually my two favorites so far.
I hope that when people listen to this show, they feel validated in being anime watchers, because no matter if you've watched one episode or 100 episodes of One Piece, you're still an anime watcher.
I mean, if anyone should be shamed, it's me, and I am not ashamed of anything that I have done.
Greg stands 10 toes down, dick out, into the sun. So let's get into it then. Let's begin with Apocalypse Hotel. A spoiler-free version, Greg.
This episode made me angry.
What?
Yes, it made me angry. Not in the I'm angry at the anime angry. Like the anime is conveying anger to me because of what
the Tanukians?
The hotel and Yachio have to deal with. Yeah,
no, those Tanukians are awful, but I mean, they're adorable looking. They're giant, they're red pandas. They seem like menaces though. Like obviously you can't have one as a real fucking pet because that thing would be like a raccoon.
Technically a Tanuki isn't a red panda. It's more akin to a raccoon, and I believe Tanukis are the ones that have like the really big balls.
Is it because they procreate a lot and so they have to have like these big balls?
I don't know the history behind the Tanuki balls, but I know that they are known for having big balls.
All right, well, let's rip it. Greg.
Episode 3 of Apocalypse Hotel. It starts with Yachio, and she says it has almost been 50 years since their last guest. Their last guest was Noju Jammer.
Yep.
I guess think of it as a time skip.
This was weird.
Would it be weird that the alien visited 50 years ago?
Yeah.
Or it was the next day and you just constantly have alien visitors?
Obviously, timeline-wise, it would make more sense if it was 50 years, because if we haven't had an alien visit on Earth, ever, then for it to be once every 50 years, like, yeah, that's fine. but it just felt weird because like I am watching a week later. Like it's I didn't wait 50 years to watch the next episode. So that felt weird. And everything's just the same.
Because they're robots and they're keeping the hotel.
Yeah, and there's not like the technology is going to get furthered in this time frame. But Yachio's been alone in this hotel. Well, not alone, but 50 years? Shit's tough, man.
Well, it's pales in comparison to how long they've been waiting up until now.
True.
She says the first in a century. And she's like, let's give it another 50 years to see if somebody comes. It cuts to the planned Gingaro Hotel Onsen site, and Yachio is running the drill. An environmental robot is like, hey, yo, you're going to hit some magma if you dig too far. Oh, watch out. That was him doing his gangster voice.
Yeah, that was really good. It was really good,
Okay.
Greg. You should do voice acting work like we said before.
She's like, fuck you. And he's like, fair, but we're both just robots waiting for something that will never return.
Mm-hmm.
Just then, a ship flies down and crashes, and Yachio has a hopeful look on her face. They go over to the ship, and she's like, maybe the humans have returned. An environmental robot is like, nah. Then the hatch opens, and it looks like humans returned. To Yachio, anyway.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a bunch of smoke in the way, so you can't really see it. It's like obscured, and the dude jumps out, and then environmental robot's like, hey, those kind of look like humans. I could see it.
It's like the theme now, because whenever an extraterrestrial comes, there'll always be like smoke, and then they'll look like humans to Yachio, and then you see him, and it's just a green dude with like a grass hat.
Yeah, exactly. I'm down for it.
Environmental robot is like, okay, I'll give you that. They look like humans. But then it starts talking, and it sounds like an alien from the 80s and says, we are humans. Take us to your leader.
I do like that. We're Earthlings. Take us to your leader. And it's like, that's not how you say that.
Yachio is elated, but environmental robot is like, wait a minute. How come they have leaves on their heads? And then they introduce themselves and say they're human. The guy's name is Boombuku, and his wife is Mami, and their daughter is Ponko, and their son, Fuguri, who says that he's a Tanukian. And then the family starts to quietly bicker. And then he's like, no, wait a minute. No, I'm actually human. I don't want to die. Please don't kill me. I'm human.
I'm definitely human. Please don't kill me.
The grandma introduces herself as Mujina. Yachio is like, okay, let's go to the hotel. An environmental robot is like, you should double check. And she's like, okay, you're right. She's like, hey, you guys got any money? And they're like, of course we have money. And she's like, great, right this way.
This whole scene was great because, like, obviously they're not human. Yachio is just like, you guys got any fucking money? The last guy tried to bail on that shit and I had to rob a bank.
But they get to the hotel and Doorman Robot is like, fuck yeah, this is what I've been training for. I'll give them the best damn door opening they've ever seen. And then he overheats. They get to the reception desk and Yachio is like, fill out this card. And he's like, word, for real? Okay. I practiced writing.
I write so many notes to everybody. I write all the time. Just watch this shit.
The kids are hanging out and they are just punching environmental robot. And Yachio looks at the card and is like, what the fuck? But is able to read it and is like, okay, let's get you a room.
The fucking kids beating the shit out of environmental robot and nobody saying a goddamn word. They are demon children, little menaces.
The writing on the card was correct Japanese, but it was super scribbly. So you
really?
can actually read it.
Oh, that's
just
good.
Fun fact.
Okay, thank you.
She asks how long they're staying. And he's like, oh, maybe like 300 days. And she's like, sick. Let's get you on that long-term stay plan. But you'll need to make an advance deposit. And then he's like, damn, yeah. Okay, never mind. We're only staying a week. And she's like, okay, sounds good. She's like, do you want 2 regular rooms or a suite? But if you get a suite, that might be a little more expensive. And he's like, give me that big ass room. And she's like, can you pay in cash? Because our network is down. And he's like, word, because that's what Earthlings do. The kids are still beating up environmental robot. And he's like, man, fuck this. And goes into cannon mode to blast the kids. And then the kids get scared and they all turn into raccoons. Tanuki, to be exact. And Yachio is like, damn, they aren't humans. And the environmental robot is like, yep, see, I told you so.
I've told you, but you won't listen to me. I'm really the one keeping this place together.
Yachio and environmental robot sit them down, and they're like, yeah, we're Tanukians, but please don't turn us into a hot pot meal. And she's like, nah.
Is that a thing?
I think you could eat a raccoon.
You think you can eat Tanukis?
Yeah. I mean, why wouldn't you? Theoretically,
because they're so cute. That's why you wouldn't, Greg?
Oh, no. Like, you can eat a raccoon.
So usually they don't eat it.
I don't think it's like a normal thing you eat, but could you eat it? Yes.
Yeah, it's not the norm nowadays. Most dishes with Tanuki in their name don't actually contain animal.
And she's like, no, we're not going to eat you. They say that Earth was always their destination because the climate is similar to their home planet. Ponko says they lost their homeland. Mommy explains there was a war on the planet, and then they went to Earth to try to find a peaceful life, and they wanted the kids to grow up in nature and not in a spaceship. Yachio says they've been serving aliens for 50 years, so they're welcome to stay. It helps that they're fluent in Japanese too. Ponko says they studied on an Earth ship before coming here, and it flashes back to them flying, and they saw human ship wreckage. Yachio is like, did they say when they're coming back? We've been waiting forever. And it flashes back, and all the humans are literally dead skeletons inside of their spacesuits when the Tanukians entered the ship. But they said, you know what? We really didn't discuss it at the time. And then it shows their ship connecting to the human ship wreckage and downloading information or something like that.
Yeah.
Yachio is like, thanks for telling me.
Where are they? This looks like it's above Earth. Did the Tanukians just hang out in the dumpster we call space outside right above Earth? Connect to a spaceship? Then they were like, we should go down there. Check it out. It seems like it's nice down there. For like 100 years, just download info.
So I guess it is safe to assume that that is Earth and that ship either lost power or was damaged before it actually reached the moon.
Yeah.
But they're hella dead.
Hella dead.
Yachio is like, thanks for telling me. That gives me hope. And they're like, sure,
yeah,
whatever floats your boat.
It's really cool we could help you like that.
Yachio is writing her acting manager's log, day 55,278. And at 3:27 p.m. today, they learned that humans are alive and well from a group of aliens.
Sure did. They're doing so good. Humans are doing so good in space.
The next day, the kids are just doing backflips off of chandeliers, swinging into the fish tank. An environmental robot is like, hey, yo, you got to do something about those kids.
I'm going to blow these children away if you don't fix this shit right now.
Yachio was like, where are your parents? And they said they are in their room for the day since Tanukians are timid, except for them, who grew up in space. Yachio says, quit that shit and don't eat the fish. And they apologize, and she says they can stay as long as they behave. The kids are like, will you play with us? And she's like, nah, I'm working. And they're like, what do you do? And she says, I do all sorts of shit at the hotel. And they're like, what kind of shit?
Show us the shit you do, lady.
Cuts to the reception desk, and the kids are like, what are you doing? And she's like, I'm waiting for guests. It cuts to Yachio drilling the onsen, and Ponko is hanging out, and she says once they have an onsen, it will be an extra selling point to the guests and will provide a great view.
It's been like 100 years of them trying to get this onsen going. Driller Robot died in the first episode, and then in the second episode, we have Yachio trying to drill to the center of the earth. And did they not do any research on the area? Maybe the water migrated. I don't know.
I don't know if Yachio has that capacity to...
Yeah, but environmental robot's right there. He could help. Maybe, I guess. All right.
Ponko asks, why did everyone leave if Earth is so great since all the animals are still here? And she says the virus only affected the primates. So that's good to know, because in the first episode, I was like, oh, there's squirrels and birds and shit, right? Earth must be inhabitable. But apparently this virus only affected primates and humans, I guess. It cuts to Yachio changing sheets, and the kids are like, why you do that if no one stayed? And she says it's to provide the guests with the best possible conditions. And Ponko is like, would it have been better if we were human? And she says no. The Gingaru Hotel serves all guests, and Tanukians are sick. It cuts to the reception desk again, and Flycatcher Robot tells Yachio something is in the hallway. And they go and look, and there's just literal shit on the floor.
Like a pile. Obviously, these Tanukians. I don't know much about Tanuki in the first place, but I assume a lot of the characteristics of what we know Tanuki as are probably what these assholes are doing. Like shitting everywhere and drilling holes in the fucking wall. Just being raccoons, because raccoons are assholes. They're very self-fulfilling assholes.
I assume these are all traits of real Tanukis and what they do.
Yeah.
But I could be mistaken.
Me too, but I'd like to know. The internet will probably tell me later.
Flycatcher Robot is scooping all the poop as Yachio is on a hunt to get to the bottom of this, and it leads to Tanukian's room. Yachio knocks and Ponko answers, and she's like, come in. She walks in and they just have literal shit everywhere. And Boombuku is like, we're making a latrine. And Yachio is like, what the fuck? And they explain they have to mark their territory so there isn't another turf war. Yachio says, you are the only guests, but even if you weren't, don't shit on the ground. But she explains that they had an alien guest 50 years ago and want to be better at accommodating other species in the future. Mm-hmm. It cuts to the reception desk again, and Porter Robot tells her that the Tanukians are digging a hole in front of the hotel. Doorman Robot is literally getting pelted with dirt, and now the Tanukians are taking advantage of the hotel's generosity now that they know they are the only guests, and they are just literally fucking everything up.
These Tanukians are absolute monsters. In my notes, I wrote that as well. Menaces, monsters, destroying all the hard work of our android friends.
And it is infuriating to watch.
Yeah, well, there's a pool. Like, the kids could have just jumped in the pool.
I don't even care about the fish tank thing. What made me the most mad isn't necessarily their traits as Tanukians, but more so the attitude that, oh, you don't have any other guests? We're just going to take over the hotel now because we're the only guests. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, they are aliens. We don't understand their species or what they do day to day, because for them, this is probably normal. Mm-hmm. But I think more of the attitude where Yachio warned them, it's like, hey, stop shitting on the floor. And they're like, oh, yeah, watch this. And now they just made a new hotel out of shit.
Yeah.
While taking parts of the other hotel with them. But Environmental Robot is like, you want me to blast these fucks? And she's like, no. But then Cleaner Robot A is like, hey, yo, there's holes all over the place. And then inside of their hotel room and other hotel rooms, they basically dug a hole and expanded their den to other rooms.
They have become the worst tenants. They're colonizing other rooms. And they haven't even paid money yet.
No. And I assume Yachio is going to hand them a fat bill when they leave with the repairs on it. Mm-hmm. And I wonder what they're going to do.
Rob a bank.
Yachio goes to their room and they're like, yeah, we expanded our den since no one is here. And they're just drinking Hennessy and eating pizza and basically ignored all of Yachio's requests not to shit everywhere.
Also, he has a raccoon on his shirt. It's either a pin or it's embroidered onto the shirt.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Flycatcher Robot was stuck in a giant pile of shit, and Boombuku said you would accommodate us. But Flycatcher Robot wasn't accommodating, so we stuck him in a bunch of shit. Yachio then uppercuts Boombuku and unlocks the extra mission quest of attacking a guest and gained the fireworks feature.
Okay, real quick. She really is Jinwoo. We've established that. Once the combat portion of Apocalypse Hotel began, she's continuing to level up, and I'm here for it.
No one else is leveling up, only her.
Only her. And it's literally by beating up a guest.
Yachio then freaks out, shooting fireworks out of her head and scaring everyone, and tells them that they can't do whatever they want. The next day, Ponko is cleaning some windows in the lobby, and she says she wants to work at the hotel for free for being bad guests, and the rest of the family is cleaning up too. Yachio is like, you can't work here. You're a kid. You got to be at least 15. She does some quick math on her little paws, and she's like, I'm 54 years old. And Yachiko is like, cool, you pass.
Well, you can get a job now.
The next day, Ponko is now part of the hotel staff team. And that's how episode 3 ends.
Kind of adorable. I'm glad that the Tanukians aren't going to be the worst all the time, but them being giant pieces of shit to begin our journey with them has been infuriating.
I haven't forgiven them yet.
I haven't either, Greg.
Ponko's the only good one because she's basically shouldering the entire burden of the family.
Well, the son also is like, yeah, I'm an Earthling because I don't want to get murdered by my family. So
I don't think he was talking about getting murdered by his family in the beginning. I think they just didn't want to get murdered, period.
yeah, but sending your child out into the wilds of Japan, if they get murdered by a gorilla out there, you're still kind of at fault for sending your kid out there. So murder.
Well, they're safe because the virus kills all primates. So no gorillas to kill Fuguri. I haven't forgiven him yet. Ponko's cool because she's actually taking responsibility.
Yeah.
But the other family members haven't really done shit. They're literally just hanging out at the hotel, knowing that they don't have any money.
Yeah.
I know that Yachio is trying to provide the best service possible.
Yeah.
And I guess it just makes me sad that the hotel and the service of all of the employees are being taken advantage of by these Tanukians.
Greg's hatred follows all transmogrification and form transformations.
There's just a giant hole where my heart used to be, or an icebox where my heart used to be.
Oh my God. Did you really just make an Omarion reference? That's crazy, Greg. How are you feeling? Are you enjoying it at least? Are you enjoying Apocalypse Hotel?
I like Apocalypse Hotel as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like these style episodes where the guests are taking advantage.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that the Tanukians only last like 2 episodes, the same as our other alien friend, Nujo Jammer or whatever.
Nujo Jammer.
Yeah, that guy. And I know that there's growing pains, and probably this will be the theme of the anime, where as they get more and more extraterrestrial guests, each guest has their own customs and personality from the planet that they're from. So I'm sure I'm in store for a lot more of shitting in the hallways and breaking the hotel.
Yeah, I'm wondering how this show continues. It's not like there's a lot happening. What's the overarching storyline, Greg?
I think there are hints. And the fact that Yachio is leveling up, like, I feel that is going to be a main story point later on. Right now, she gets things like, oh, I can spit out hot water from my mouth and fireworks come out of my head.
She will turn into a combat robot, and this will become like Battle Angel Alita really quickly.
Oh, I like Battle Angel Alita, by the way. I wouldn't mind that.
You're like, that'd be sick. And then they have hotels around the world that the androids fight for, and then kaijus come back.
I do hope for Yachio's sake that the humans do come back.
Me too.
After seeing the little flashback with the Tanukians, it is looking a little more grim in terms of humans being able to come back to Earth, if there's any humans left. I don't know how humans would come back, actually. Like, I had a couple ideas I was going to say, but I decided against it.
Well, my theory is that they keep running into aliens that have come across humanity in some way, shape, or form across the Milky Way. And they're like, dude, how do you guys keep finding us? And they're like, well, we ran into some dudes and they said they were from Earth. And then they were like, when did they say they were coming back? And they're like, oh, we didn't really talk about it. And then the aliens stay at Gengaro Hotel. And then at the very end, there's going to be a human that comes back. And he's going to be like a caveman and really dumb.
Oh, damn. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
That's all I got.
I can see that. I think maybe that's kind of the overarching theme for the anime. Everything is interconnected, even outer space and aliens and the universes. Right now we had Noju Jamma, and I don't know if he came to Earth by coincidence or if he came here on purpose.
Right.
With the Tanukians, they said they wanted to come to Earth because of the climate.
Yeah.
But then they ended up going to Earth because of the war on their own planet. I don't think they ran into humans. They probably sucked the data out of that ship and determined that Earth was the correct climate for them.
Very possible.
I think it'll be like an interspecies reviewer / space dandy thing where after the Tanukians leave and after Noju Jamma left, there's some bulletin board on some space station for aliens somewhere that they're just like, Gengaro Hotel's the best. And then it'll become like a galaxy gem for everyone to visit.
I think you're right on that regard as well. All right, let's move on to Anne Shirley. Spoiler free, Greg. How's Anne Shirley?
Originally, our first, no, I guess our second. I guess Matthew's our first male lead character, not lead character, secondary character, but our second male secondary character. I liked the interaction between him and Anne, and I thought it was nice.
No, I hated it. That kid's a piece of shit. He's a monster. I would fight him in real life. As a 38-year-old man, I would punch that kid straight in his fucking snout.
Oh, damn. He would probably just die because medicine doesn't exist. So.
Yeah, the 0 Band-Aids, all headbutts the whole time.
Damn.
I'd swing him around by his feet and throw him into the shimmering waters. As a kid, I didn't do that. That wasn't my way of flirting with people. If you don't tell someone and they don't reciprocate those feelings, you don't hurt them trying to get their attention. It's like, yeah, boys are just being boys. And he's like punching her in the throat. And he's like, I'm hiding my feelings of liking you.
Wait, did we watch the same episode?
Yeah, dude, he tried to fucking powerbomb Anne.
Maybe we watched different stuff. But anyway, episode 3 of Anne Shirley.
He's put a pencil on the desk and he's like, you want to see a pencil disappear?
Damn.
Yeah, that was the fucking episode.
Definitely watched different stuff.
All right.
So Matthew hangs the picture that Diana gave to Anne above Anne's bed. And she's like, doesn't that look like Diana? And Matthew is like, you know what? No, not really. I don't think so. Anne.
I don't understand how it does it. It looks exactly like her.
I agree. Matthew's older though, so.
Yeah, but he probably
needs PRK or LASIK.
Yeah, he does. He's definitely that guy. Get him some monocles. Get him some bifocals.
Marilla walks in and Anne says that she got invited to a Sunday school picnic, but she's never been to a picnic and asks Marilla if she can go. She's like, yeah, of course, go hang out with the girls. But Anne says that Diana says everyone needs to bring a basket of things to eat. And Marilla is like, yeah, I know how a picnic works. I'll pack up a basket. And Anne gets all lovey-dovey on her, and Matthew is just chuckling with his tea. Anne is now harvesting peas out of their pods, and then Marilla walks in and says she can't find her amethyst brooch, which she wears to church. Anne said she borrowed it since it was the soul of violets. And Marilla is like, damn it, Anne. And Anne said she put it back when she was done. And she only does a naughty thing once and won't ever do that same thing again. Marilla goes to look for it again, but can't find it. And Anne is like, oh, can't find it? And Marilla's like, you're lying to me. And Anne is like, nah.
Lying.
And then Marilla gets mad.
We beat up Marilla too. Marilla and her ancient bones and throw her into the lake of shimmering waters for treating Anne like shit.
Marilla she's never raised kids before.
Yeah, and she's doing the best she can, and it's not enough because she's going to get these fucking hands, okay? This is what I'm saying.
Is that how we solve things and teach kids?
Violence,
if you can't do
Greg.
it right the first time, headbutts.
Dude, Yachio literally uppercutted that dude into the fucking ceiling. I'm all hands on deck, all hands for these kids and Marilla.
I think you're just looking for the fast way to level up. I think that's what
Dude, that's what it is. I'm going to beat the shit out of everybody, level up. I'm going to learn how to spout hot water out of my mouth.
Then Marilla gets mad and tells her to go to her room. And now Marilla assumes that Anne took the brooch and lost it. Marilla and Matthew talk, and she's like, Anne is telling me lies, which is worse than losing the brooch. Matthew is like, well, you need to raise her right. And Marilla is like, I can't tell Rachel since she'll be like, I told you so. The next day, Anne is in her room and Marilla is bringing her food. And she's like, I didn't take the brooch. And the picnic is tomorrow. And Marilla is like, until you fess up, you aren't going anywhere. The next day, Anne confesses to taking the brooch and said she was pretending and went to Barry's pond and took it off and it fell into the water. And Marilla is like, man, what the fuck? And Anne is like, okay, I confess. Can I go to the picnic? And Marilla is like, fuck your picnic. And Anne is devastated.
Yeah. Again, she's like, until you confess, you're not allowed to go to the picnic. Breaking her own rules because Anne confessed and she's like, punish me so I can go to the picnic. And it's like, she did everything you asked. She confessed to the murder. And then you were the bad cop in the situation. You're like, actually, since you're such a piece of shit, you're getting 80 years of jail time.
And this is where the moral of the story about assumptions comes into play.
Yeah.
You shouldn't assume all of this stuff because then you get into hairy situations like this and you're not able to attend your picnics.
Okay, it's not Anne's fault.
No, it's not Anne's fault, but
Marilla
is cooking dinner and hearing Rachel saying that Anne sucks. And she's like, fuck, maybe she's right. And then Marilla is like, Anne, dinner's ready. And she's like, no, I'm too heartbroken to eat and you suck. But I forgive you. So remember when the time comes and don't ask me to eat anything so unromantic like pork and greens. And then she runs to her room.
Anne was about to get like the dopest breakfast, by the way. There's bacon, eggs, toast with butter on them. There's oatmeal and then greens. She got a full breakfast and then was probably going to get a delicious soup dinner. Matthew says it's delicious. He's like, this is really good. I'm really stoked on this. And Anne was like, you said I could go to the picnic and now you're taking it away from me all because you lost your brooch. This is a sad turn of events.
This is why I like Anne Shirley, because it's not necessarily trying to tell you the right thing to do. It's showing you the process of learning and how both Marilla and Anne, even though they have a giant age gap and they aren't blood related, still
they're about to be related by blood.
Oh, damn.
Marilla's going to catch these hands.
Oh, damn. Okay. But no, I think it's nice that they have to go through this process together of learning.
Yeah.
Where neither of them know exactly how to coexist with each other. Mm-hmm. And this is just part of the growing pains of it. And if they can overcome these hurdles, then they grow closer as a family.
Blood is thicker than water, which is the blood of the battlefield is thicker than the water of the womb, which is the real quote. So like your chosen family is more important than your birth family in a lot of situations because it's really important to surround yourself with the people that you want to surround yourself with instead of being like loyal to the people that you were born into. Some people are born to Jeffrey Dahmers. You know what I mean? Like that shit sucks, but the nature of the world. Sometimes your mom and your dad are miserable.
I was like, damn, he's talking about blood again. He's going to talk about punching an old lady. But then you turned it around. So I'm proud of you.
Thank you. This is what I'm here for.
Matthew is eating dinner and he's like, damn, this is good. And Marilla is like, nah, it's unromantic pork and greens, you fuck. And then Matthew is like, well, Anne is still young and didn't have an upbringing. And Marilla is like, you go too easy on her. And then she's like, man, I got a lot of sewing to do. So she goes up and gets her shawl and the brooch was stuck to it.
Because she's a dumbass.
So Marilla realizes that she fucked up.
Yeah.
Marilla goes into Anne's room and is like, I found the brooch. So why did you lie about it falling into the lake? And she's like, well, you said for me to stay in here until I confessed. So I came up with something cool to confess.
I wonder how deep the lake is. Because if you drop the brooch right off the bridge, generally that's where the earth is being moved to for the bridge. So it's probably pretty shallow.
Yeah, and technically it's a pond. I put lake here, but
yeah,
it's pretty shallow.
She probably could have dove in there. Or we could have just grabbed her by the ankles and let her get
lowered her in.
Yeah.
Yeah, grab Marilla by the ankles and lower her in. Is that what you wanted?
I meant.
And then you're like, what, Marilla? I can't hear you to pull you back up. What did you say?
You just see the hands flapping. And you're like, I can't hear anything. Matthew, can you hear anything? And Matthew's just like, no.
He's like, damn, this pork is good.
Yeah.
Marilla laughs and is like, okay, Anne, you win. I was wrong. But you shouldn't confess to something you didn't do.
I told you originally what happened. You just didn't believe me.
She's like, if you forgive me, then I forgive you. And they forgive each other. And Marilla is like, well, time to get ready for a fucking picnic. Matthew drives Anne to the picnic and all the girls are there. And Diana introduces her as her dearest friend to the other girls. And they ate and went on boats and they had ice cream. And it was a grand old time. It was
the best fucking day
for everybody. Anne goes home and tells Matthew and Marilla all about it. And then Anne goes to bed and Marilla is like, yeah, I fucked up. And when Anne is around, there's never a dull moment. The next day, Anne is off to school and Marilla tells her to listen to the teacher. And Matthew said that he'll have her study desk ready after she's done. So he's putting together a custom RGB height adjusting desk just for Anne.
I said that back in the old days, Matthew was a man, like a real man. He's a man that builds a desk. Also, that all of that is sarcasm. Being a man is not defined by what you build. Just because you built a computer, Greg, doesn't make you more of a man.
Oh, Anne is walking to school and walks through the forest and calls it Lover's Lane.
I'm sassy today. I'm sorry, Greg. My bad, dude.
It's okay. And then meets up with Diana. They then pass the Violet Vale and then the Birch Path. And then they run into Jane. And she said, Gertie Pie put his milk in her spot yesterday. Can you believe that shit?
This was like the first time I really had like a moment, sit down with myself and thought about how they cooled things in this time period. Like, because I do know that for ice to exist, they would take giant like parts of lakes and then they would put them in a specific barn and so that they could have ice and ice cream and like ice to cool things in summer. This was the thing, in an insulated barn. I didn't think about if you had water nearby, you could just have a basket that sits in the water and chill your drinks. I didn't think about that. It's fucking genius.
Thermodynamics, heat transfer from the milk to the water until the milk is the same temperature as the water.
Yeah, that's so sick, Greg. Wow. Way to use your word brain. Also, did Diana, she's the one that started announcing all of the areas. It wasn't Aunt. Diana was giving the same kinds of names. So it's like they're really...
Yeah, they feed off of each other. Yeah, they're in sync.
Yeah, they're in sync. Diana's JC Chazet and she's Justin Timberlake.
They then run into Ruby and she said, Mr. Phillips wrote something on Prissy Andrews' slate. When she read it, she turned red. Wonder what he wrote. So all the girls are gossiping, but they get to the Avonlea school and the teacher, Mr. Phillips, walks in and says they're spending the first part of class on geography. Mm-hmm. And we'll look at a map of Prince Edward Island. Anne can see Barry's Pond, aka Lake of Shimmering Waters, from the window. But then the teacher tells her to come up to the map. Mr. Phillip is like, point out Avonlea School.
Also,
on this map.
Hold on. Really important information. Prince Edward Island is in Canada. Avonlea is where Cavendish is in real life. Green Gables Heritage Place. And then also there's a city called Montague nearby. You're welcome.
Anne is like, damn, I've never seen a map before. But she sees the names of cities that she's traveled through and was able to reverse engineer her way to Avonlea on the map. Anne then is reciting a story out of a book, and all the girls are like, oh, she good at that. And then the girls have lunch and put their milk in the stream to cool it.
Yeah, real quick with geography. For the longest time, I thought New Brunswick and Nova Scotia were like across the fucking world. I didn't know that America was connected to Canada. Geography's not my strong suit, apparently.
Well, it's okay.
Thanks, Greg.
They all laugh about how Anne is good at reading stories.
Yeah.
They go to eat, but the girls are like, we pool our lunches. And then they all eat. Then at home, Anne tells Marilla her pie got the highest acclaim. And she's like, damn, well, I'll bake more next time.
Nice.
Matthew asks how school went. And Anne said that Jane said her nose was cute. And Anne is like, that's the first compliment I've ever gotten. And Anne is like, Marilla, is it true I got that young, sweet nose? And Marilla is like, yeah, it's pretty good.
It's all right, I guess. It's on your face. How would it be being a 12-year-old, hearing your first compliment, Greg? I can remember getting complimented like a handful of times in my life. Like when people say, oh, you look really nice today. You like fucking stick with that for 700 years.
I can't remember any compliments. I remember, I think I was in 4th or 5th grade or something like that. And then we had someone come in, a geologist or something, and they had a piece of limestone. And they said, oh, if you compress the limestone changes color. And they were like, who's the strongest person in the class? And I was like, ooh, me. And then everyone else chose someone else, and I was sad.
What? I thought this was going a very different direction. I was gonna be like, oh, Greg's the only one that compressed the limestone. He walked up there and he fucking smashed it into like the size of a piece of paper or something. And he was like, look at this, I'm gonna write on this limestone. And then he wrote, you're all bitches on the limestone. But
no one even acknowledged that I was even there, and I accepted it. And I'm like, well, if
that was it,
he's stronger, he is.
And so Greg was that person forever. That was it.
Anne and Diana walk to school again. God. And Anne is like, Diana, you look happy. And she's like, Gilbert Blythe will be at school today. And Anne is like, who dat? And Diana said, oh, it's the really strong guy that compresses the limestone, and Greg's an idiot. But she says, It's a hot dude, and he's a little older than them. He's 14. Diana says his father was sick and left Avonlea for a few years, and then Gilbert gets to school, and everyone is like, "Oh fuck, Gilbert's back, let's go!" And all the girls are like, "Ugh, Gilbert's so hot."
This is all
and
true.
He calls Diana Pro, and she said it's because of her jet black ebony locks.
Yeah, Gilbert sucks, and his name sucks too.
Let Gilbert cook.
No, fuck this kid. Yeah. He's already shown that he has zero regard for normal names, and he's like, I make nicknames for everybody. Her name's Crow because she squawks like a crow, and her hair's like that, and she's ugly and stupid.
Didn't say that first
and
part.
then he walks up,
he didn't say that
and he's like, watch me do these fractions, and the whole class is like, go Gilbert, go Gilbert, and the teacher's like, Gilbert, you get an S rank for the class.
Oh, damn. Yeah. And then DJ Montague's in the back, and he's like, Gilbert, I'm going to headbutt you. And then Gilbert compresses you like limestone.
I fucking hate you, Gilbert.
Gilbert is doing some algebra, and Diana says that Gilbert was the head of his class before he left. And Anne is like, finally, a worthy rival.
Got some competition. I'm going to crush this motherfucker. I'm with Anne.
Ruby gets called on by the teacher, and then Gilbert pulls her hair and makes her yelp. And Anne is like, Gilbert's pretty hot, but he's also too bold.
He's a piece of shit.
Well, Gilbert is like, we're talking about a 14-year-old kid.
Dude,
here.
Fuck this kid, all right?
In the 1900s.
I do not give a shit, Greg. It could be the timeline of before Jesus, all right? Like when we didn't have school or anything. Fuck this kid. Learn some goddamn manners.
Yeah.
Yeah, fuck. Yep. No, fuck this kid. Throw him into the lake. Shimmering waters.
Oh, yeah, you just hold him by his ankles next to Marilla. Yeah, all right. Gilbert is like, who dat? And another boy is like, oh, that's Anne, and she's top of the class. And Gilbert's like, time for battle. Gilbert tosses a paper airplane at Anne, but she ignores it because she's lost in the view of the shimmering lake of wonders. Gilbert then goes up and knocks on her desk, but Anne is still daydreaming. And all the boys are like, oh, fuck, a girl ignoring Gilbert. Dude. Damn, no.
And he couldn't swallow his pride and just be like, hey, I was trying to talk to you. No, he had to be a bigger piece of shit.
Gilbert calls Anne a ninjin, also known as Carrot, and pulls on her braid. And Anne is like, fuck you, and breaks her blackboard over his head.
Dude, turns around. He's like, I'm so sorry for a second there. And then she killed him. She bashed his fucking skull in. She used all of the items in the classroom to hit him, and he's dead now. And that was the end of the story.
I wonder if this generation watches this and they're like, what are they using to write? What is that? That's not a computer.
That's a tablet, dude.
Yeah. Yep. And the chalk is the stylus.
That's exactly what I've got. One of those right here. Look, it's got a black thing, and then I've got the stylus.
Oh, you're right.
Yep, nailed it.
The teacher is like, what the fuck? And Gilbert tries to take the blame, but the teacher has Anne stand at the blackboard for the rest of the class.
This teacher sucks. He's like, okay, I'm going to walk in here. I'm going to realize what's going on. This kid, this absolute menace, Dennis the Menace, Gilbert, pulling people's hair, and then she's like upset and crying, literally having broken the blackboard thing over his head. And he's like, well, you go stand up there. Gilbert, you did a really good job expressing your feelings today. You should do that all the time. And Gilbert was like, okay.
Okay. And it says Anne has to learn to control her temper and writes it on the blackboard. But the teacher forgot to put the E at the end of her name.
Because he doesn't pay attention to women.
It's recess. Anne runs out of the door, and Gilbert runs after her and says he's sorry for making fun of her hair. But she isn't having any of it and keeps running. Anne is stomping through the forest, and she's more mad that the teacher forgot the E in her name than the hair thing, but then takes some deep breaths. But then the teacher rings the bell for the kids to come in, and Anne and some other boys aren't going to make it. And they all run, and Anne stops in front of the teacher, and all the boys run into the back of her and bowl over Mr. Phillips.
But all that he's done is just dumb. Like, I'm going to single you out and treat you awful like things to Anne, who's just trying to like experience nature and understand the world. And this guy's like, well, you like boys so much. Well, you're hanging out with the boys for lunch at recess and stuff. You watched her run out of the forest and then run past these kids. And then
technically he didn't see her run out of the forest.
He
rang the
saw her
bell.
running up.
Well, yeah, but he didn't see her running out of the forest. And then he went and stood in the doorway. And then since Anne was the first one that technically hit him, you have to remember this is a period piece. It's set in a time frame that Anne is forced to sit on the boar's side of the class.
Like Limestone.
But then she packs her stuff up. And Diana is like, school's not over. And Anne is like, Diana, I can't stay here. And she leaves. She gets home and Marilla is like, what the fuck? And Anne is like, I've been insulted. I'll never go back to school. And Marilla is like, damn, guess I got to talk to Rachel. And that's how the episode ends.
And Anne Shirley is absolved of all guilt. And we need to protect the people that are trying to better the world. And fuck you, Gilbert. You started this.
Yeah.
Mr. Phillips, you're a bad teacher.
I like Anne Shirley.
He also, yeah, the show's good. But Mr. Phillips singled her out when she was like, they had the whispers, and she's like, he's like, she's new to the class. I'm going to shut her right up. Hey, where's Avalonia on the fucking map? And then she's like, oh, well, I crossed the lake on a boat and took a train, and then we went up here. And he's like, that's fucking right. God damn it. I fucking hate these kids.
I like Anne. It's slower pace, I suppose. It's not super action-packed, like uppercutting Tanukians into the ceiling or anything. I mean, we do get a Blackboard smash, which is pretty cool. I like the time period and the time capsule of what Anne Shirley is as a whole, not necessarily just anime. I think it's fun to look back at how things used to be and to compare them to how things are now.
Right, I agree.
I like the growth of Marilla and Anne, and how Marilla was more standoffish in the beginning, but as we continue down this path of Anne Shirley, we see the bond between mother and daughter strengthen.
Yeah, I agree. And I think they're doing a good job of showing how to engage, especially with a stranger. This is a 12-year-old child being moved into a house with a brother and sister that are 800 years old. And they've that 800 years of learning that they have to undo and experience the world through a 12-year-old's eyes again.
I think she's 11.
Because I think they're going to do a birthday episode, I would imagine. Because like,
happy birthday, Anne.
Yeah, because like her birthdays have got to been terrible. I've had a birthday in foster care and it sucks. Okay, it's not fun. So knowing that, I'm hoping that she gets a good birthday.
I mean, if she's eating eggs and bacon every day, I'm sure it's going to be off the chain. It's going to
be fucking sick, dude. And toast and oatmeal and peas. Dude, it's a full breakfast. All right, so let's move on to Go-Go Loser Ranger. Greg?
Yes.
Is your hatred at an all-time high?
I don't hate Go-Go Loser Ranger.
That's not what you said in Discord.
Okay, I mean, I did say that, but it's just not as interesting as I want it to be.
Yes, I agree. I did bring up a good point, apparently, says Greg, so I'm going to ride with that forever until I die. It's going to be on my gravestone. He brought up a good point about Go-Go Loser Ranger. I think that the show would be better without D as a character. Hibiki's a good main character if you wanted to go that route. And if you followed him along in his crazy nature of losing his mind to try and stop the Ranger Squad, that would be more interesting than following around D, who's just like, these guys suck. I'm going to kill them all. And that's kind of boring. Like all the other characters around D are interesting.
Yeah, I agree. And D as a character, he is boring because he only has the one track mind.
He's got one
and
speed.
It's not even like, how do I get to my goal? He's like, I'm just going to jump to my goal immediately.
Mm-hmm. Zero forethought, zero self-introspection, zero brainstorming, zero thought for everybody around him. I am literally fighter D and I'm going to do this. And that's it. And I'm flying by the seat of my pants and lucking into every situation, failing upward.
There is no growth in D.
So far,
right now,
other than the fact that he could grow into another person, like him being Hibiki with, I wonder what Hibiki's arm is doing at this point.
Decaying slowly, probably.
Wait, I wonder if D still has it. He doesn't still have it attached to him. But
I think he does.
Later in the episode, we'll talk about it because he turns back into his normal form. I think he's just got it in like a locker somewhere.
I think it's become part of him.
Ugh. Hopefully he absorbs some of it to be a cooler character at some point.
But episode 3 of Go-Go Loser Ranger, to backtrack a tiny bit where episode 2 left us, we have the day reset and Uskubo is losing her memories and now is converting to a child of this make-believe school that they are in.
Mm-hmm.
Episode 3, episode 15 of the series, starts off Hisui and D on the rooftop, and it flashes back to Uskubo starting to get her memories confused and losing them.
I do have one thing to say, though. Drinking milk through a straw, I hate it here. There are certain things that gross me out. Milk is one of them, unless it's like mixed with something. Obviously, I like macaroni and cheese, but I just don't. I fucking hate raw milk. I know that milk isn't raw milk and it's colored and all that stuff. Milk just grosses me the fuck out.
Do you remember in elementary school when we would have lunch and then we'd stand in line and get our lunches and then we would have to choose between regular milk, chocolate milk, and milk fortified with vitamin D?
Yes. Why wasn't there fucking water? Like, that's not an option.
Kids need calcium, strong teeth, strong bones.
Greg, that's a lie from the 80s told milk makes strong bones because people wanted marketing.
Why are you applying all of these modern things to things that happened in the past? I'm telling, this is a time capsule of our childhood.
That's the whole point,
whether
Greg.
that science was true or not.
We to his kids.
That's not even the point of the story. The point of the story is, do you remember getting the milk and then if you had leftover milk, we had a bucket by the trash cans that you would dump all of the extra liquid in so you don't throw it into the trash. So there was just a bucket full of mixed liquid.
Oh, no, that never happened.
Well, that's how we did it in my school.
What school did you go to?
The elementary school.
Yeah, you can, Greg, or you could dox yourself on the internet. I think people will know where we're from by now. The janitor probably taking that out was a fucking nightmare and it would always get like milk on whatever they were dragging it out of. I get it.
It's like a 55-gallon trash can. If you just filled that with liquid, it would be heavy as fuck and the bag would probably break.
If you carried it with the plastic barrel, you could lift it up with like a hand cart and take it with you and then just spill milk all the way over.
Yeah, but then if the bag ruptured in the trash can or anything, it would smell super bad. I assume why they did it was you put all the liquids in the bucket, then they just took the bucket to the back of the kitchen and dumped it in the sink or whatever.
God,
anyway,
that's disgusting.
This is your fault for talking about milk.
Yeah, no, I hate it. I hate it so much. It makes my stomach curl.
It's not just milk. You put soda in there and it would just sit there for all of lunch, probably getting hot, and it bubbled.
And kids back spit and shit. Like
1,000%.
Ugh.
Yeah, and then you would just dump the oil from your square pizza into there too.
Ugh, Greg.
You keep wanting to talk about it. I'm trying to move on. Anyway, Chidori says that the reset wasn't anything that they did, and they can assume that when school ends, then it resets anyway. But then Uskubo brings Gato to the roof. Chidori says he reviewed the student handbook and it doesn't say anything about roof access. But then he looks again and the rule appeared in the handbook. The principal walks up and he was wearing a Green Ranger uniform. And Hisui seems to have recognized him. And then the day resets. Chidori tells D he wants to talk to him. And Hisui goes to the principal's office and she calls him Wakaba. And he's like, long time no see. She asks if his memories return and he said yes after he got to the roof and doesn't know how long he's been here. Hisui says he was part of the Magatia search team 4 years ago and went missing. And he said he held out hope they would rescue him. It cuts to Chidori and D. And Chidori says that boss monsters disguise themselves as humans, and that Magatia probably is one of the students here in the school. It cuts back to Hisui, and she tells Wakaba to stay where he is. He doesn't trust him quite yet, but then he attacks, and she spits out some swords at him. But as it looks like she's got him, He raises a stone wall and says that the search team was lost with part of the divine artifact. And he summons O Kuninushi no Kami and summons 2 pillars to squish her. But she uses her Ukemochi no Kami and breaks out.
I also wrote these down and was very proud of myself when I said them at the time of writing them down. And then I didn't say them afterward. I was like, I'm not going to embarrass myself on national TV on my own stream. Worry. So you won't get those words from me. Thank you.
I will embarrass myself.
Greg, you're not embarrassing yourself. You speak Japanese.
But you don't know if it's right or wrong.
It's true. I don't care.
I could have just said Tatsumaki's Senpukyaku, and you would have just been like, sounds good. Sounds good.
Did you say dicks out for Harambe? That's crazy.
They fight, and he got the better of her, and she has a flashback of Tokiwa, who was the owner of the artifact that he's using. So basically, Wakaba's body is being used, I assume, by Magatia. Mm-hmm. And Magatia is also using Tokiwa's divine artifact. We could assume that search team is just fucked.
I'm assuming the entire search team is dead or assimilated into Magatia's conscious.
Yeah, they spend so much time in this Ouroboros realm. Yeah. They just eventually get absorbed.
It's called Snake Eating Ass Realm. Thank you, Greg.
Oh, yeah, I forgot from last episode, yes.
First of all, the divine artifacts being used here, I'm a huge fan of them actually using these because this imagery of Wakaba using the divine artifact looks sick as fuck. I saw that. I was like, he looks crazy. He's got the shield. It's dope. And then Hisui comes out with the chompers and it gets crazy and you're like, hell yeah, let's fight it out. And then it kind of fizzles.
So during Hisui's flashback, she challenged Tokiwa to a duel to who is going to be the next Green Keeper. Mm-hmm. And she gets beat by her divine artifact.
Like instantaneously.
She basically just gets like rock tentacle held in place.
Yeah.
It cuts back to the present and Hisui kicks Wakaba out of a window and then rides his body down while lightsabering him through his mouth. But killing the president is a violation of school rules. And a student sees this happen and everything resets. So now we can assume
the student says that's a violation of school rules. My assumption is a kid has to see it and then say that's a violation of school rules.
That is what appears to be correct. So it looks like anytime any like student that's in this realm sees something that's against the rules, the whole timeline resets.
Also, when he gets mouth lightsabered, pretty gory. Like they got a lot of blood. It was pretty cool.
She was probably imagining it was Marilla and she's like,
yeah, I'm going to put you in the lake of shimmering waters. And then just beam sabers through the back of the head.
So it resets and Hisui seems to be losing her memories now too. Chidori and Dee are outside talking and Dee then kicks a vending machine and then a bunch of cans fall out of it. And he's like, damn, messed up again, I guess. That's a violation of school rules. But then things don't get reset. And that's kind of how they figure out, all right, like if you are part of the world that has already been assimilated, then if you say that, it gets reset. But since they are outside of it, I guess.
I think it's because no kids saw it.
You're right. Yeah, no kids saw it. Chidori figures it out, and rule violations that no one sees aren't an issue. And Chidori is like, it's time to use my 7 tools. And he has an FPV drone headset and a gecko lizard drone thing, and he calls it the Greed Eye. Sakurama, aka D, gets called to the office, and he's like, they're ready to make their move too.
Remember, we just talked about how D can't see 2 feet in front of him, and he's like, they're ready to make their move too. Like, you could have thought about this whole time what their aims were, what their goals are, and you're just like, fuck this vending machine. This shit is stupid as fuck. And then Chidori's like, well, we're figuring it out. And D's like, I don't give a shit, dude. I'm here for fucking soda. And then he cracks a cold one and he sits there and Chidori's like, well, it's time to figure out more. And he's like, okay, well, what are we figuring out? And then Chidori says the name of his thing and he's like, what? What are you even talking about, you fucking idiot? And then he says it again and then the words appear in front of D and look like they're going to punch him in the face, which they fucking should at this point.
Emotional decisions, greater sign, long-term results.
Yeah.
He walks to the office and is like, man, I just want to fight the boss. I don't care about these humans that are trapped here. But then he runs into Hisui and she's like, I heard the announcement, be careful out there. And Dee is like, well, that's weird. Usually she's the first one to like charge in and go ham.
Yeah.
Hisui is in the girls' bathroom, splashing her face with water. And I wrote here, I think she knows that she's starting to lose her memories.
Mm-hmm.
Dee runs into Uskubo, and he asks her how school life is, and she says that it's great. She starts reciting some old memories from last episode about telling her dad about being a ranger. And then there was some weird, like, glass breaking animation thing, I think, to symbolize that memory that she just recited is probably going to be lost or something like that.
I thought she was kind of breaking out of it for a second. That was my assumption. It was like she was thinking and the fourth wall was breaking and she was like kind of realizing, but still going back to her normal reciting.
Or was she like 5D chess move, like pretending that she lost her memories, but didn't actually lose her memories?
Maybe that's what it is. Cause like she's trying to assimilate herself so that she can, because I gotta assume Uskubo isn't a fucking idiot. Like she was like, I was president of this whole class periods. She knows what she's doing to a certain extent. She joined the Ranger Force because she's not an idiot, right?
No, but I think how this world works is if you went to school, you're like reliving those school memories. And since she said at episode 2, where she used to be the class president, we know that she was in school. And we know Hisui was in school until she joined the Ranger Force, where then she left school. So both of them went to school, but Dee never went to school because he's a monster. And Chidori, we don't know, but I think there's more to him than meets the eye.
I just think he's the Green Ranger at this point. Like,
yeah, that's what I mean. Probably
it's either him or like Magatia's some extension of Magatia that we don't know about. That's my assumption. I think that at this point, my personal opinion is that the boss monsters have infiltrated the Ranger Force to a certain extent, and we don't know who's really on the side of anyone, because obviously that's the nature of the show. But I think that's what makes it annoying that Dee is the main character. It's like he doesn't have any aspiration of finding out. So when we as viewers find out, he's like, yeah, who gives a fuck about that? And like slaps the thought out of our heads. Like we're supposed to be the ADHD rattled maniacs that just don't care about anything.
I think you're correct, because they have insinuated that monsters are walking amongst humans right now.
Yeah.
There's a ton of stuff that we don't know as viewers that is going on in this story. And that's what kind of bugs me a little bit about Go-Go Loser Ranger, is that it's too unclear. I don't mind it being unclear and you have to follow breadcrumbs and stuff, but I feel like Dee is making it so unclear, or maybe it's designed in such a way where, as you said, as we as viewers start to figure stuff out, Dee is put there on purpose to throw us off.
Which is fine to a certain extent. It's just like, it's more like having the unreliable narrator is fine when the narrator is interesting. And Dee is supposed to be our narrator and he's just snoozing. He can be stupid and oblivious, but at least let him try to get the information, try to be more powerful, try to weasel his way through this situation. He's doing nothing, and it's really it's really annoying.
Well, what he is doing is going into the teacher's room, and Gato is there, and he asks Dee if he can be a student. And Dee is like, nah, fuck you, and draws his sword on him. And Gato has a yardstick and protractor shield. And Dee is like, oh, you going to reset this? And he's like, nah. And I also have a note here that yardstick protractor shield, that reminds me of Dan when Momo had when her friends were talking about her and the crab, or was it with Momo and Ira? And they were doing the naked gladiator fighting, and she had the yardstick and the protractor shield.
I think so.
Cool reference, Greg. Awesome. All
no,
right.
that was no. I think you're right, but that also makes me more sad because of how like Go-Go Loser Ranger is going. But I also don't know which manga came first either. That could be just a general joking thing about high school.
Yeah.
What I wanted to say about the nostalgia thing is everybody that went to school probably has nostalgia feelings for their high school to a certain extent, because people that peaked in high school, that's everything, right? High school was the coolest I've ever been. I had the most friends in high school. And then afterward, it's really hard to make friends. People probably look at high school nostalgically. And that's what Magatia is preying on, is keeping these kids in school.
Yeah, it would be more nostalgic for us if they actually had the light projector with the upside down clear paper
and
that they wrote on. Yeah.
and we just sat there and fell asleep and shot spitballs at each other and never cleaned up the school, and everyone had their shoes on and was just general pieces of shit.
Yeah, and then we made an episode of Ubel Blot.
That is literally what we would have written in high school. I've got this show. It's called Dark Swordsman, and it's about this guy who dies and then he comes back.
And then some kid sticks a gum wrapper in the outlet and knocks all the lights out.
Yeah. That is literally American high school.
Okay. Gato is like, time to kill. And he slashes D, but D regenerates. And he's like, yeah, I'm fighter D. And then Gato just keeps literally killing him over and over.
Dude, just fucking wrecking his shit. And this is, again, like, it's supposed to be played for comedic effect, where D's the main character and he's just getting his ass beat by everybody. So he literally has no chance against anyone, and we're going to watch this dude fail upward repeatedly until the end of the show. That's going to be really boring when he goes to fight the Green Ranger, who's like a psychopath and will use anything at his disposal to win. And then D catches him off guard with like a fucking paper airplane to the eye, and he gets killed by falling off a building and getting impaled on a car or something.
I can see that. I want to give the writers a little bit of credit where I think they're doing this on purpose. Like they want us not to like D. Mm-hmm. And then I think it's going to make, whenever this series ends, D's entire past of however many seasons of just being completely awful, I think he has a realization moment at the end and he does one thing that's cool. They're banking all of their coolness points right now and not blowing any on these little interactions that he has. And they're just going to cash out all of D's coolness in one scene at the end. And I'm not going to like it probably.
Yeah, no, me either. But I think you're kind of right. I think that like, it's just, he's not a good main character. He's just not. And if you had somebody like Yuji in the place of D in this show, I think Yuji would fit better than he does right now in like Jujutsu Kaisen. Jujutsu Kaisen not being like, Yuji's a fine main character, but I think that the show of Jujutsu Kaisen is too big for Yuji, or the story. He's really hard to get behind because he's just not all there. He just wants to beat stuff up and save his friends. You could have that idiot character be here and his aim is still to get stronger, beat stuff up and save his friends. It would be more interesting.
You could insert Denji into there too, and I'm sure he would be fine. But
yeah, maybe that's it.
Gato realizes he can't kill him, so he just throws a bunch of desks on top of him and says that he'll let D out if he forgets everything about the school. And D is like, you're not brainwashed, Gato. Why would you help a boss monster? Gato says that the kids here came by choice and they're happy, and he's tired of fighting. And it flashes back. Gato was like a soldier and he's holding like a claymored kid or something like that.
Yeah.
And then D again,
like, immediately doesn't give a shit.
D has no perspective. He's like, what's human military war? I don't know what that looks like. He tells D again to forget the school and it shouldn't matter to him since he's a monster. D is like, I side with no one. And then gets his lightsaber and turns it on overdrive mode like in last season and starts slashing shit. But D sucks and loses his lightsaber. And Gato takes it, but then the room starts to regenerate itself. And Gato is like, the Lord is coming. And he bows. And Magatia rolls in a red jumpsuit and a snake head.
It's awesome.
Was Magatia the bald dude in the hallway?
100% he was. Yeah. And I was guessing who Magatia was in the beginning. We're going to do this for Lazarus in a second here, where I get really mad at one particular scene.
I know
exactly what I'm talking about. The old man yelling at some kid in the beginning that they kept showing. It's like a snake in a jumpsuit with hands and feet. What the fuck are we talking about?
He is like, fuck you, man, and tries to attack him. But he gets teleported out of the dream school, and now he is back into the real world.
Yeah.
It cuts to a theme park with some kids on a field trip. And the monster, the kaiju, that the Red Keepers were looking for is eating an elephant. The Red Squadron dudes inform the Red Keeper, but he's busy at a press conference thing. And then the monster goes to eat the teacher and the kids.
Yeah.
And that's how episode 3 ends.
Benny Yamato is like, hey, we got to let him know. And then he's like, I'm doing a press conference because I'm cool. And then, people get eaten. All in all, Greg, how are you feeling about Go-Go Loser Ranger right now?
I'm not excited about it.
Is it Ubel blotting you all over the place?
No, it's like a different disappointment, I guess.
Okay.
I feel like the Go-Go Loser Ranger episodes feel longer than they actually are.
Yeah.
Because it's still a standard 23-minute episode after you skip the credits and the outro and stuff. But when I'm watching it, it feels so long.
Mhm.
And it's just not really capturing my interest at all.
I think that's what we were feeling at the end of season 1 too. Was just like, okay,
Yeah.
there's this scene that's 6 episodes long of them fighting in a car park, and then all this stuff happens, but nothing really happens. Again, we're getting to the situation where D is just unlikable. And maybe that's the point, but that's not going to help carry your show where your main character and your main selling point is this unlikable douche.
I think the unlikable character trope is okay, but you need to give us a little glimmer of hope that things could possibly change.
Yeah, I agree.
Right now, I don't have any hope that our protagonist is going to change. So that's why I think it's so boring to me. Because you can have like a jerk character, even Marilla, for example. In the beginning, she seemed like a jerk, a really cold, crotchety old lady or whatever.
Yeah.
But, you know, she goes to take Anne back to the orphanage. But then you see a little bit of light inside of Marilla as she's like, well, I don't want to give Anne to this crazy lady. Anne is so imaginative and just constantly talking, and it's hurting my head. But as time goes on, she learns more about Anne, and you see the relationship grow a little bit. But D is not growing. D's relationships aren't growing. Like, he understands he needs them, but it's very...
He's lucking into every situation by being an unlikable douchebag. And everyone around him is like, hey, we're all connecting and we're trying to work together to become Rangers and do this stuff. And this guy's obviously trying to do that, so we have to connect with him as well. But he's making it so obtuse. Like, with the Green Squadron, doing the work that needs to be done so he can get to the point where he gets to kill the Green Ranger. The whole time, Hisui and Angel are sitting there talking with him and building relationships with him. And then he continues outward afterward as these people are just being, I'm just using them. I don't give a shit about anybody. It's not like he's having a moment with humanity at any point in time right now. And that's also like, I understand that Anne Shirley's probably not going to go past season 1 or need a season 2 because it probably is going to tell a complete story. Whereas Go-Go Loser Ranger is probably going to be like 7 or 8 seasons or whatever it's deciding it's trying to be. And they're going for the long discussion, but we're in season 2 now. Give us something.
This is kind of another experiment I want to run at some point where if I just waited for Go-Go Loser Ranger to end, instead of having to go week by week, would it be better if I could binge Go-Go Loser Ranger in one sitting and condense the dislike for D into a shorter period of time? Will I like the series more? And it's almost like Delicious in Dungeon, I think, is another example where if I had to watch Delicious in Dungeon week to week, I would have gotten extremely angry. And even though I was able to sit there and binge the whole 24 episode season, which is hidden extra credit, by the way, it still makes me mad. Now, I know for a fact that if I was watching that week to week, I would be 100 times angrier at that anime than binge watching it in one sitting.
I had this discussion a long time ago with Anthony. Greg knows Anthony. He hadn't watched Game of Thrones, and it was like season 5 was about to start. I was like, bro, you got to watch this shit. I brought him to my house. We watched a couple episodes and ate lunch. And he was like, okay, I get why people like this. I understand, and I'm going to go binge this. And he watched 4 seasons, and he was super stoked on it. There are characters in that show that you can hate, but most of the characters that you follow around, basically the entire family from the North, they're all likable to a certain extent, except like maybe one. And that's, you know, they even in season 6 have him much better than he was. At least you have 5 main characters that are pretty interesting. Whereas this show has all of these main characters, all of Red Squadron's now, like, you don't really talk about them other than Benny, I guess. Hibiki's off doing his own thing, so you don't really follow him. The most that we follow is just this main douche. It's a trial, but we are feet to the fire, Greg. This is what we do.
Yes.
We persevere.
Yes.
We persevere to wear cool sweatshirts from good TV shows like the stuff that we got from IT Aesthetics, the sweatshirt that I'm wearing.
Oh, damn. Okay.
IT Aesthetics, tab C10 at checkout. We tied ourselves over from the fire and the fuel to the fire by drinking Gamer Subs, the delicious Gamer Subs. DJ Montague at checkout. Thank you so much to Gamer Subs and IT Aesthetics.
Now we make our way to Lazarus, the last anime on our list.
Spoiler free, Greg. Are you still watching it in English?
Yes.
How's that going?
The same as the last 2 episodes.
Greg's fury culminating. I'm enjoying Lazarus. But then again, this is the style of show that I'll watch. I watch shonens. I watch this kind of show where it's almost trying to pick out the things in the episode that matter to you and what speaks to you. I don't mind it.
A lot of it is convenience too, I feel like. And the comedic elements aren't hitting for me. I don't like mall cop guy references that they just kind of toss in. I don't think it's that funny.
Or the cat. You don't like the cat?
Yeah, the cat's not funny. I feel like they're making their way through this impossible mission that they're on, and it's just out of convenience they're getting to where they need to be.
They're go-go loser rangering.
Yeah, I mean,
at least they're likable characters.
It's fine, and I know that I need to keep my eyes open for all of the breadcrumbs to relay to the listeners.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes it's hard for me to get into Lazarus because of the parts that aren't interesting for me. But I will do my best to point out things.
In the way that I'm watching it, I have to watch it subtitled. I'm forced to focus more on the bottom of the screen because I have to read what's going on. I'm forced to make mention of small things because of also the way that we do these episodes and the notes that I write. I have a lot of information about every episode so far, and the shortest information that I wrote down was of episode 1 when I watched it in English, and then in Japanese I thought it was much better. For episode 3, I'm still on board. I enjoyed Lazarus. I think it's gonna be good. I think it's gonna be solid.
The more I think about it, I just don't know if the breadcrumbs matter because I'm still holding to my theory that this is all placebo. No one's going to die in 30 days. It's a human experiment, social experiment put on by Dr. Skinner. So even though I do try and write down these breadcrumbs, I think at the very end of the series, the breadcrumbs won't necessarily even matter.
I 100,000% agree with you because what I think this show does is it's like when lightning hits a tree or the threads of a knitted sweater. You could pull on a million threads. Not all of them get to the center. With lightning, that's a little bit different because obviously like branching paths. But I think that not all of the breadcrumbs will have payoffs because some of them are just misdirection. Why don't we get into it? We'll just dive right in.
Okay.
We open real quick with Chris this time, which I really liked. I like how they're changing up the characters' voiceovers for the intro.
So episode 3 starts with Chris narrating, and she's basically saying she just wants to do whatever she wants and said something about a broken heart and how Hopna could cure it, and it's too good to be true.
Dude, this gives more character credence, and like I understand how Chris feels. I have felt that. Like when you're obligated to do everything under the sun and be the biggest adult in the world at all times to fix your own life, sometimes you just want to fucking sit down and veg out and have a good time.
So the facial recognition brings back 106,529 Skinners. And Douglas is like, someone is hacking the surveillance system.
Mm-hmm.
Elena says, yeah, it's very precise. And they have modified the polygon masks and thermal images. Elena said that she only knows 3 hackers that could do something like this. Popcorn Wizard, Dr. 909, XXX, Weed Wizard 420, XXX, and Mad Screamer.
Yeah.
Which is Elaine.
These aren't MySpace hackers, Greg. Calm down.
Hirsch is like, the only reason they're doing this is because Skinner hasn't had plastic surgery.
Mm-hmm.
Douglas is like, I got a lead. His name is Claude Van Damme Klein, and he was his mentor when he worked at the lab at the university.
Jean-Claude Van Damme Klein, you mean?
Yes. And he was involved in some research projects with Skinner. Axel is paired with Douglas and is like, this is lame as fuck. It cuts to Skinner's house, and Leland and Chris are there as fake cleaning employees to clean Skinner's house.
Smile clean, dude. I think the name is so stupid. And that
I think this whole scene is stupid. But
well, okay. So my theory on this is that in America, you would claim a missing person or an unknown person as John or Jane Doe. Okay. That is a well-known thing. Translating that to Japanese is probably a different name for those people that are missing. But when whoever was writing this was like, we'll just call her Jane Doe because it's a reference to America in English and how they are just random people. I don't think the person that did this knows how obtuse this becomes. Because if your name was Jane Doe, in real life, it would be really frustrating for you. And so when they approach the situation, it's definitely not from an English-speaking American because of how obtuse this would be. I want to give some people the benefit of the doubt that they probably didn't know. So
yeah, no, it makes sense. Cuts to Skinner's house, and Leland and Chris are there as fake cleaning employees to clean Skinner's house. The police are like, "You're not going in there." And Leland is like, "Well, I'll just send you the invoice directly to you guys." And they're like, "Oh no, that's crazy. With the cancellation fee, it's going to be 240,913 smackers." Oh, so the cops let him in.
Do you think it was yen?
I guess it would be weird if it was yen because they're in America right now, right?
This is like, how do you, all of that in the background is in English, right? Yes, it is technically, Skinner's house is probably in America. And they say they take a hypercube and we don't know how fast that goes, but it's 6 hours to get to Istanbul. I don't know. I'm assuming they're in America just by the English graffiti.
So if it was in yen, it would probably be around $2,000, probably a little less with the exchange rate now. I don't know how their currency works in this world.
Right. We don't know the value of the dollar at this point. All of those things. That's all inconsequential to get the people that do not give a shit about their jobs, that are just standing there on the last 30 days of their fucking lives.
But also at the same time, it's like, then why do they even care if it gets charged to them because they're going to be dead before they even have to pay it? How does a standard normal cleaning employee, not a manager, not the owner of the company, is going to invoice a specific cop for that? And the cop should probably understand how the stuff works. It's just out of convenience. This is one of the things that I didn't like.
To a certain extent, but it's also like, it is pushing the plot along. It's like kicking a can down the road. It's like, this is your fucking problem now, but it's really not. And it's all lies and subterfuge, but it's shallow. I understand that.
It cuts to Stanford Hospital, and the cop from episode 1 rolls up and walks right past Axel, comedy relief guy. Mm-hmm. Douglas walks by and says they said his mentor retired, but there's a rumor he ended up on the streets. And Axel is like, "The streets are my jam." Back to Chris and Leland. Chris is like, "You're too good at conning people." And Leland is like, "Oh yeah? What did you do?" And she said she traveled around as a secret agent. And then their bracelets let them inside the fucking house.
Yeah.
Back to Leland and Axel at the homeless area. Axel is meeting up with Jerry, who he met in prison 2 stays ago. And he's the leader of the homeless area. They walk around asking for Jerry, and one of the dudes looks like Skinner.
Like exactly like fucking Skinner. And he doesn't say anything. He's just sitting there talking to some homeless people. That's fucking Skinner literally right there. They could have did a better job of like having him walk by, because like misdirection. If Douglas was sitting down talking to this guy and then Skinner walked behind him, totally fine. I would have been okay with that. Douglas doesn't have eyes in the back of his head, but he literally talks to the dude they're looking for and have seen pictures of. They get the fucking Superman syndrome. I get it. It is a real thing. Superman syndrome does exist. Like seeing people wearing a fucking hat. Some people just don't recognize that, but this was literally the fate of the world at stake here, guys.
Back to Chris and Leland. Chris finds a pill in between some pillows on the sofa, and Leland is like, "Can that be a cure to Hopna?" And they're like, "Nah."
Well, she puts it in her pocket.
Is. Yeah, she does put it in her pocket. Mm-hmm. Some homeless guy is like, "Jerry doesn't run this place. It's Jill." And Jill is like, "Oh, my boy Axel." And Axel is like, "Jerry, you're a girl now, huh?" They sit down, and Douglas is like, I'm looking for Claude Van Damme. And Jill is like, everyone here's got their story, and you shouldn't dig up their past.
Okay, this is an amazing allegory to trans in general. I love the way this character is portrayed immediately. Jill saying, hey, don't dead name people. That's incredibly important in these ideas going forward. And bringing up the past, it's incredibly difficult for some people. And you see with Claude, as we continue on, that it's really hard for him. He has come to terms with his past to a certain extent, but also knows that it's put him where he is. Whereas Jill is happy where they are. And Axel immediately is like, oh, cool, you're Jill now? Sick, cool, done. They don't talk about it. They don't go about it. They don't make it fucking weird. I like that a lot.
Douglas talks about how someone said that he was black and wouldn't get a Nobel Prize. And he hit him and got kicked out.
Just knocked him the fuck out.
And Claude stood up for him, and he wants to thank him.
The Tanuki punch treatment.
Claude is playing chess, and Douglas is backseat chessing, and he tells him how to win. And then some other dude is like, yo, Axel, let's play ball.
All of this happens, and it's very weird.
Douglas is like, I'm looking for Skinner. And Van Damme is like, I haven't talked to him for years.
Why is he just Van Damme now? What the fuck?
And then Van Damme just stares at the boiling teapot.
He doesn't punch it
Axel
over.
is playing money matches with the basketball kid for $20 a game.
Also, illegal moves all over the place. Axel doing a backflip off the wall, grabs with both hands. It's a travel, and then shoots the J.
Technically, if he only jumped off the wall using one foot and then used the other foot Euro step, it would be okay.
Yes, he would have been fine there, but he didn't. He used both feet. Okay.
Claude says that Skinner was an obsessed man, and his research blinded him to everything around him, including the time of day, and it was exhausting working for him. As Skinner rose in infamy, it made Claude jealous, and he wanted to outdo him and leave his mark on the world, which drove Van Damme to falsify the results of his research. He got fired from the university.
Did you ever watch the movie JCVD, where it's Jean-Claude Van Damme playing Jean-Claude Van Damme?
No, I probably should watch that.
You're literally explaining it. It's Jean-Claude Van Damme playing himself as a washed-up actor and trying to get his redemption, and it's really stupid, and it's great. It's called JCVD, which is Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Axel breakdances on the kid and overhand throws like a half-court shot, and the kid is like, that's not fair.
Mm-hmm.
Claude remembers he had a passionate discussion about baklava with Skinner, and Skinner said his grandmother Belinda made the best baklava in the world, and he mentioned she lives in Istanbul.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Douglas is like, cool, thanks, Teach, and thanks for standing up for me back then. And it's weird because Claude almost didn't even remember that. He's like, what?
The thing is, in the grand scheme of things, it probably means something big to Douglas. And Claude was just like, yeah, I was just doing normal human shit by standing up for you. That was the right thing to do at the time. And I didn't think anything of it past those 2 seconds because he was so self-absorbed with his stuff to try and upstage Skinner.
Okay. You convinced me.
Okay.
Douglas talks to Jill and she's like,
you know him long?
He's like, nah, just Matt.
He's like, I don't know that fucking guy.
And she said, Axel is the kind of guy that can make himself at home anywhere, even in prison. But before you know it, he disappears. Back at the hideout, there is no information on Skinner's grandma. Elena is like, look at this area. There's no cameras or data available for it. And they're like, let's fucking go. And Leland is like, could be a trap. And Axel is like, fuck yeah, I love traps.
Mm-hmm.
It takes 6 hours by Hypercube. And Hirsch is like, this is the only option. They get to Istanbul and Axel is like, I'm going to walk around and attract attention. Elena has set up some float traps because they hide their identity in that area and has some tech speak and then says they're decoys.
Yeah, Leland's dressed up in the local garbs, he thinks, also. And he's like, oh, I'm going to wear the mariachi costume to Mexico. Like, that's literally what he's doing right now. And everyone's like, this kid looks like a fucking idiot.
Axel and Leland get approached by some shady dudes. And then Axel is like, fuck yeah. And then starts running.
You skipped over the dick kicking, dude. He stomps on that dude's dick. He trips the dude. The dude falls over backwards. And then he grabs his leg to open his legs up to stomp his dick. That's what happens. And it's ridiculous. Axel dick kicking master. And then he jumps on the bus and they ride off. And then he's like 50 feet afterward, he's like, we got to get off here. And Leland's like, what are we doing, bro? And then they roll off and aim for the bushes. And then they find the girl.
And then a girl is having a tea party with her stuffed animals talking about a prince. And Leland then falls through the roof and she's like, oh, it's the prince.
Yep.
That's silly. Some dude comes in and they're going to chop off Leland's hand. And he's like, we just want some of Grandma Belinda's baklava. And they're like, oh shit, why didn't you say so?
Yeah, wait, we'll take you there. We're all homies with Belinda. She makes the best baklava.
They take them to Belinda's and she's like, oh, hello, boys. And then gives the fucking murder axe hand cutter dudes a box and they skip off.
Yep.
They go inside and just start ripping baklava. And she's like, what are you boys doing around here?
It looks so good, by the way. That's I like baklava a lot, and it looks really tasty.
It is tasty. And Axel is like, we're secret agents. And she's like James Bond? And she's like, oh, you got a license to kill.
Greg, she's an old lady. Let her live her life.
What do you mean? I was just doing my accent. I was practicing my voice acting. So if I have to voice act an old lady, that's how it would sound.
It sounded like you busted your pants, my dude. That's not
you
what
got a license to kill.
God damn it, Greg.
What was that line from Magic Mike and Matthew McConaughey?
What is it, Greg? What is it, Greg?
He's like, oh, the law is you can look, but you can't touch.
Oh God. But I see a lot of
lawbreakers out there. Yeah, that's my old lady voice. Yep.
No.
Okay. Yep.
All right.
She's like, hey, you must be here about Skinner. And she says she hasn't seen him for years. And he lost both his parents when he was little. So she raised him. Leland sees a flower and he's like, I've seen this before. And she says it's a rare variety of tulip that Skinner brought her. And I think that was the same tulip that was in Skinner's house when they were cleaning it.
Yes. They'd say 3 years ago is when he gave her this tulip.
Axel asks if she's talked to him, and she said he sent a video message about 3 years ago, and she shows them. Axel is like, Skinner is watching us because he wants to make sure Belinda is okay. And then he finds a camera, and he's like, remember this face, Skinner? I'm going to fuck you. And then all of Elena's decoys go off. And she's like, I found Dr. 909's hidden wallet. Time to get wrecked.
That is the end of the episode.
That's the actual line of what Elena says.
In the Japanese translation, she just says destruction. That's all she says. And she says it in English, too.
Time to get wrecked with R-E-K-T.
Theorycraft. The tulips could be the way to
antidote to Hopna because he gave one to her and
also
he doesn't
misdirection
want Belinda to die.
It could be misdirection, and that's what I love about these shows. Not everything is important, but it gets you engaged when things like that come up. I think he's already given her whatever antidote, if there even is one that's needed at this point.
Do you think that box she gave the axe dudes was just baklava?
Yeah,
or do you
100%.
think that was something else?
No, I think it was baklava.
Or do you think the baklava is the actual cure?
No, I don't think that at all. I think the baklava is just delicious. I think they're following breadcrumbs that are telling the story of who Skinner is, because they're running around a circle of where Skinner actually is this whole time. They're finding these shitty clues and ruining it for themselves. Axel thinks Skinner is the one that put up the camera when it's Dr. 909 apparently, and Elena's like, oh shit, I have a lead here for Dr. 909 from this. That's he obviously saw this, and now they're going to follow that lead thinking it's Skinner, or Axel will think it's Skinner or something, and then it's for Elena's storyline. That's literally that's Cowboy Bebop, dude. Like, everybody else had their own threads and things that were happening. All of these things tie back to each other in such weird, strange ways. And that's all it is.
Okay.
Sorry, Greg. I'm liking Lazarus. I think it's enjoyable. Watching Lazarus first gets me excited to watch other shows. I get to watch Douglas, and I get to watch Chris, and I get to watch Leland interact with the world and tell their own lies and their own story and see how they react. It's not just the Axel is the worst character, fighter D show.
For me personally, this anime isn't for me. I'm not necessarily having a good time. I think it's interesting enough where you have your action, which is cool. You have your mystery detective elements on the breadcrumbs that people are leaving and the misdirection and all that stuff. I don't expect them to give me the answer on the silver platter. Like I expect, yes, we do have to figure it out a little bit until later on in the series when they do the unveil. That's not necessarily what I don't like about it. I guess maybe I'll just reserve judgment until the end of the show.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I don't have enough information yet to say whether I don't like it or it could be really cool at the end. But right now I'm on the fence.
The person they picked for the Japanese voice acting of Axel seems like a way cooler guy. Axel being a punk, but being good to the people around him to a certain extent. I don't think he was going to kill Chris to save his skin, but he probably wanted to see the extent of what they would do because he does like breaking out of situations. And we've already seen that he doesn't like killing people even when he has a gun. We're getting more information that Axel is a punk to authority and just wants to live his own life. Leland probably is trying to just figure out what the fuck is going on and probably make some money on the side. Chris is probably trying to have combat with her feminine wiles of being a secret agent or whatever, and then be a normal person in the world and just exist without all these skills that she has. Douglas is like trying to find answers for whatever his past is. They've all got their reasons for doing this, and Hirsch is just taking advantage of everybody to try and fix the world.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily have a problem with the characters or how the characters are developed. Kudos to the show for making me push my judgment, because it's making me think, I don't know if they wanted to come off like this initially for the idea that the breadcrumbs and the clues that they're dropping now may or may not be useful. And then they are going to do a crazy shift of pace that will turn everything around. But right now at episode 3, I think everything's pretty lame. But I also don't want to double down on that yet, because I still feel like they can use that to their advantage. I don't want to go all in on it right now saying, oh, I hate it, it's bad, I'm going to tear this thing apart, because it's making me second guess what I would say about it.
Well,
so I'm giving it a little bit of credit because it's making me stop and think and not Ubel blot or failure frame and just start sweating and lose my breath as I talk about it.
The most important thing to remember is that Cowboy Bebop didn't pick up any part of the main storyline until episode 5. So you have an hour and a half of runtime developing characters and understanding how these people interact with each other. And then you get Spike's background in a big episode with a ridiculous fight scene with the quote unquote villain of the show. So I don't know how this show ends up showing that there's not going to be, the villain is supposed to be Hapna. How do you fight a pill?
I mean, the villain's not Hapna. The villain's Skinner. Hapna's just a byproduct.
They're showing through this episode that Skinner isn't a villain. He cares about the people around him, and he has shown that he cares about the world. He's very absorbed in his work to try and make the world a better place. And the world almost turns on him. We're wondering whether it's a revenge story or what it is with Skinner.
It definitely is not black and white. And I don't think Skinner's a good guy. And I think if his Hapna curse is actually true and everyone is going to die, then I don't think that you can't not call him a bad guy in this situation. Because even though, yes, he has ideas of protect the earth, instead of killing everyone, you're a smart dude. Killing everyone's probably the easiest way.
Mm-hmm.
And if you wanted to save the world, then I think you would approach this problem in a different way. But I think, as Claude said, that Skinner was blind to everything around him except his research.
Claude shows the failures of humanity, the jealousy, the frustration, whereas Skinner was just focused on his work. He wanted to make the world a better place in the ways that he could. And then when he was showing the world and the world leaders, he was like, look, this is how we change the world. This is important. And everybody turned their backs on him because it wasn't to further their country's goals. And I think at the end of the day, I don't think the blame is on Skinner. I think the blame is on the rest of the world for turning their back on him. It's like Tesla. You have good ideas and all of this knowledge that we could learn from. You've done the research and people turn their back. These are important humanitarian problems that should be discussed regularly. And we have people that don't understand and don't care to understand that make the decisions for the rest of us. It's all a failure on humanity as a whole. I get why Skinner would do this. I don't think it's the right decision.
So it's Lazarus. We got Skinner and we got Lazarus, and that is episode 3. Thanks everyone for joining us today on this episode of the Anime Book Club podcast. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, anywhere you listen to podcasts.
100%.
We are there. You can also find us on the Instagrams at the Anime Book Club podcast. And please consider following and subscribing so you get the latest news of what we are watching here.
The moral of stories is kindness is free. And so are these hands. And you can catch both of them. Okay?
If your name is Marilla or Gilbert, watch out.
Watch the fuck out. All right. No, just try and be better people. We're all just trying to get by. You know, if you can recycle, if it's available, you should do so. Don't beat yourself up for not being able to do so, but just try and be better for the next time. Take accountability for your own actions. Understand that you are a part of the world and you are living in it. We appreciate you being here in the world. Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode.
Thanks to itaesthetics.com for providing us with super sweet t-shirts like the one I have on right now.
And the sweatshirt I have on.
Wait, which sweatshirt do you have?
I have it's a spoiler. I don't want to say her name. It's a Jujutsu Kaisen sweatshirt. That is a spoiler, and I feel bad. But it's okay. I read the manga. I'm allowed to wear this. And Gamer Subs, DJ Montague at checkout. Drink up. It's delicious. And it's caffeinated. And you can get non-caffeinated versions. They got large boob cups and large butt cups. And boobs and butts are cool. Did you know that? Thighs are great.
Yeah, they make cups for your butt. So if you want to boof Gamer Subs, you are able to.
I don't think they make the cups specifically for the butt, but if you want to boof Gamer Subs, you can, but it's not advised. Ladies and gentlemen, we've been the Anime Book Club podcast. We'll see you in the next one, episode 4 of all the shows we're watching. Gogoloo's Ranger and Shirley, Apocalypse Hotel, and Lazarus.
Goodbye.
Thank you, friends, for checking out the Anime Book Club podcast. We hope you enjoyed the episode.
And if you don't want to miss the next one, follow us on the socials where we announce new episodes, content, and other cool stuff. You can also check out our anime list with our rankings and follow along with what we're currently watching and what we have watched in the past.
All the links are in the description. See you in the next one. Bye!